Turbo and 2K show.
What's up, 2K crew? It is that time of the week again. And yes, you're looking at this mug for the third week in a row. However, got a surprise for you. What's up, 2Ks?
What up, brother? How's it going?
Hey. Good to hear from you. We got the Kaler household has now become the COVID cave. So we are doing we're being responsible and socially distancing here on this podcast day. But man, we've got a great show coming up. For those of you that I do see a handful of you on live, watching live on YouTube. If you're not already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, give us a like, drop a comment, and I will feature you on the show just like this. Let's get a conversation started, ladies and gentlemen. We have a couple good shows here. But 2Ks is back, which means it's going to be better than ever. So those of you that are listening on the podcast side, go ahead and give us a follow, give us a like, and all of that good stuff. And if you guys are feeling extra saucy, go to buyturboabeer.com, buy 2Ks and I a beer, and you will be helping the show financially. Well, 2Ks, brother, let's jump into it, man. What a what a weekend of football. What a weekend of football. It's in, which is really cool because it's 8-11 right now. The Dallas game just got over with. We've got the Chiefs and Steelers coming up, and probably I don't know why they got kind of the primetime nod, because out of most of the games, this is the one I want to see the least.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know if it's just because of Ben Roethlisberger, like him riding off into the sunset, but let's not cut corners. Ben has played like shit. He looks like he's a million years old, which he is. And if this is his last ride, kudos to you, brother. Right off into the sunset. Your resume, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. But I'm just not. But then again, 2Ks, this could be with the Chiefs. We've seen ups, we've seen downs, and this could be a game where the Chiefs just lay an egg. And maybe Watt goes off for like 5 sacks. You never know, but I have a feeling that it's just one of those things where, yep, this is going to be a Patrick Mahomes type game. And then tomorrow, this first time ever, Monday Night Football in the playoffs. We got the Cards and the Rams. Which Matthew Stafford will we see? And kind of on the same lines, 2Ks, which Kyler Murray are we going to see?
Yeah,
we've seen this Cardinals team be the number one team in the NFC, riding that wave, and then even when Kyler was hurt, McCoy came in, played some very good football. That team played very good football, held everything. That they steered that boat while Kyler was gone, and hell, they lose to the Lions, 2Ks.
Mm-hmm.
They lose to the Lions. So we'll get into each one of those games, but first. Let me get your overall takeaways before we jump into some stats and stuff, 2Ks. Just give me your overall takeaways of the games yesterday. And for those of you that do not remember, I will give you the slate from yesterday. It was Raiders, Bengals, Pats, Bills. So what was your biggest takeaways from the Raiders, Bengals, 2Ks?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is just how good the Bills look. I mean, the Bills, I think, have kind of, at least in my eyes, have kind of evened that matchup with that we all think is going to happen as far as them and Kansas City facing off. And I mean, if that game happens, that's going to be a tough game to top. I mean, I get it that there's no way that those two teams can match up in the Super Bowl, obviously, but.
Right.
Could that be the Super Bowl? Could that game be possibly a better game to watch than potentially what we would watch the week after that? I know me as a fan, just a fan of football in general, that's a game that I want to see is those two teams face off and play against each other, because in my opinion, those are maybe the two best offenses in the game right now. I think Patrick Mahomes has kind of proven that he is the most kind of, I don't know if I can use the word most talented, because I think most talented quarterback in the league is still Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
But
the most electrifying, maybe.
The most electrifying, yes, that's a very good word. And then but in comparison, Josh Allen could be that too, with what he can do not only with just the fucking cannon of an arm that he has, where he throws a deep ball. He can throw a deep ball 70 yards, a $110. Like it just a fucking ball. I've never seen a ball jump out of somebody's hand the way that his does. Like it's insane to watch. I could not imagine being a receiver on the other end of that when you're playing in below zero temperatures trying to catch those balls. But it seemed it wasn't a problem last night. I mean, it seemed like everything was very easy for Buffalo, the only thing I've heard for years and years is how good of the defense Bill Belichick is going to throw out there, and you give it, especially in the playoffs, in the big game, in the big situation. And Tom Brady wouldn't have this if it wasn't for Bill and this and the Belichick defense. And man, that defense had no answer at all last night for what Josh Allen and the Bills were doing. None at all.
And like I said, we'll jump into the stats here in a little bit, but yeah, I think we're seeing right now the Josh Allen that I think all of us have been waiting to see, because you mentioned that being a receiver for him would be pretty intense. I wouldn't want to be on that defense trying to tackle that big motherfucker. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, we already mentioned that Ben is in the post twilight of his career, and body wise, they're very similar. But the one thing that separates Josh from Ben is A, that rocket of an arm, and B, the ability to run. Where Ben was elusive, I guess. He would extend plays because he is so big and because he's so hard to tackle, but I don't ever remember Pittsburgh giving quarterback just straight quarterback dives for Ben, or Ben is never going to run a read option, and if he does, and if you bite on it, you're one of the worst defenders in the league because you know that guy's not going anywhere. No. So, but it's just size wise, stature wise, it's like one giant man is getting ready to leave the game, and now we're seeing kind of, I would say his replacement a bit, like a Ben 2.0, if you want to think about it that way. But no, this is the Josh Allen that all of us kind of expected. This is why he was kind of the preseason MVP. I mean, everybody was jumping on him the way that team did last year, the stats, just padding the stat books and everything else. And we're seeing it come, we're seeing that Bills team just come together at the right time and be that team that I think all of us thought they were going to be. Mm-hmm. And it does feel good watching that and getting, I'm not going to say Belichick got exposed, but yeah, that defense really did get exposed. I mean, there's really no, you can't dance around it. You can't dance around it. When I think I saw a stat last night that Buffalo scored 7 straight times, and the first 7 possessions scored a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And when we get in the stats, I'm almost positive that I saw that Josh Allen had 4 incompletions and 5 touchdown passes. So that's not really what happens to Bill Belichick and his defense. He's the one that's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. But this time, it looks like dudes are playing chutes and ladders, dude. They weren't even playing on the same board. And if you just some quick things about the Bengals Raiders game, dude, we are seeing Joe Burrow come alive, be the Joe Burrow. Like dude barely even stutter step to get back from that injury. I mean, there were no hiccups. He hit the ground running. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing possibly the best team for 10 years in that AFC North, with the Browns are the Browns. The Steelers, where do they go from Ben? That's going to be a hot topic that I'm sure not only us but every other sports talk is going to talk about. Where do they go? And then you've got, it seems like the injury riddled all the time Ravens. So is this the step that Joey B and that Bengals team needs to make the to just assert their dominance over that conference? I think so. I'm very heavily on the Joe Burrow bandwagon. I love him. I love the way the team's put together. I think I think both these teams that you know that we've talked about so far in the Bengals and the Bills, I think those two teams are set up for a while. For a while.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And to me, what's so exciting about that team is just that Joe Burrow and that Jamar Chase duo, and how long we're going to be able to watch that. You have a quarterback in Joe Burrow who's 24, 25 years old. Jamar Chase, 21 years old, rookie in the league, and rookie. And probably right now, I would say he's. I have him as the third best wide receiver in the league right now total, and he's a rookie.
Yep.
But so the first one that comes to mind for me as far as quarterback wide receiver duo is Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and what they have.
Hands down.
But that's been a work in progress for 7-8 years now. These are two guys that they played together in college, but these are two guys that at the NFL, this is the first year that they've been together in this system. Very, very scary what they're going to do here in the future. And there's some other guys on that offense that are some studs too. And I think the one that kind of gets lost in the wash here is Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's a very, very good running back, but he kind of gets lost in the wash when Burrow's playing the way that he is, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. And I mean, it's hard to say that there's a better all-around offense that, as far as weapons go, than this one. It's really hard to say that there's one that's better than these guys.
Oh yeah, and you're 100% right when you say Mixon kind of gets lost in the wash, because I mean you rewind a couple weeks ago, Joey B's throwing for like 5 1/4 and 4 touchdowns. So there's a reason why he has 3 1,000-yard receivers. And yes, before anybody says anything, yes, I know that this isn't the first 17 game schedule. I get that, but to not only have most of those guys healthy all year, which we've seen, take the Ravens, like I mentioned previous, they were loaded. Injury bug bit everybody over there, everybody. So kudos to these guys for staying healthy all year. And just what blows my mind is the whole adage, there's only one ball, but when you got that many studs, including Mixon, to have all these guys commingle and coexist, in my opinion, is extremely rare. And like you pointed out, they are very, very young. So maybe that's the key. Maybe they haven't gotten bitten by the diva yet. And I just hope they don't, because that team is so much fun to watch and just amazing on the field. And some of the hiccups that we've seen, I think we can kind of attribute to their age. They've never been here before. They've never done this. And for them to come out the way they did yesterday, kudos to that coaching staff. Kudos to everybody over there. Folks in Cincinnati, you should be very, very hyped and very excited for quite some time. Well, 2Ks, what do you say we jump into some stats on this game?
Okay.
All right. Share my screen here. Bam. All right. Make sure that we are indeed sharing. Yep, okay. Start off on the Vegas side. Derek Carr goes 29 of 54, 310 yards, passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Joey B goes 24 of 34, 244. Man, that's a lot of 4s. 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. Josh Jacobs had a very, very good day, even though in my opinion, he had 13 carries, 83 yards. I think that that number should have been higher than 13. But Joe Mixon goes 17 of 48. Darren Waller, 7 catches, 76 yards. Jamar Chase has just, you already mentioned, dude is a fucking stud. 9 grabs, 116 yards. Tight end Uzma, 6 catches, 64 yards and a touchdown. And Tyler Boyd, 4 catches, 26 yards and a touchdown. So that's kind of my big takeaway from this game, 2Ks, is with this Vegas team, when they're rolling, it seems like Jacobs is getting the ball more than 13 times.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking here from this, he didn't even, he had 4 catches for 44 yards. So one of your best offensive players gets the ball 17 times. And I know for a lot of this, they were, No, it was pretty close because it was 13-20 going into halftime. So they're only down one score. So it's not as if Cincinnati got up 26-0 in the first quarter, and they were forced to throw the ball all over the yard. So everything else to me seems pretty much status quo, except if I'm a fan of the Vegas team, I want the ball in Jacobs' hand more. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially when you have Burrow on the other side, and the offense that we just talked about. Let's not forget the last 2 weeks of the season, Burrow throwing for over 400 yards in just about in both games. So obviously, we see what this offense is capable of, and I kind of thought the same thing. I thought Vegas would take a different approach in trying to run the ball a lot more. They didn't really fall behind big time. The defense actually played really, really well.
Yeah. Crosby's a fucking stud. How is that dude second team All Pro?
Yeah, I had no idea.
That blows my mind. And I mean, granted, I've only really watched like the last 3 weeks of him, but the dude's a game wrecker. And out of the 3 teams that they played, it does not seem like anyone has actually kept him under wraps, or even close for that matter. So
And the defense, like I said, with the defense showing up and playing the way that they did, that game really went a lot differently than what I saw. When I first looked at this line, when I was betting on this game, and I saw 48 points, I was pounding the over on it, and I think it ended up going like 45 or 46 points is what the total was. I thought 48 was very low. It was going to go way over that.
Yeah.
And it did not open. Vegas' defense was so much better than they played so much better than what I thought they would. And like you said, offensively, I thought they could have did a better job of running the football and trying to control the possession a little bit more. But yeah, just another thing I want to say real quick too before we stop talking about the Raiders is it's really, really hard not to like Derek Carr.
Oh yeah.
I mean.
Oh yeah.
That it just seems like that the franchise that he has played for throughout his career has just been a fucking dumpster fire since the starter there.
Yeah.
And he's played for so many different coaches. He's never had like his best wide receiver he's ever had is fucking Crabtree probably.
Yeah.
It seems like he's playing with a different coach in the middle of the season all the time, and just really has been given the shaft ever since he came into the league, but somehow, some way, finds ways to get this team into the playoffs and playing meaningful football down the stretch, and really this team never really falls into like they're a joke. Everything that happens off the field with the Raiders is a fucking joke, but on the field it seems like this guy is able to keep them in ball games, keep their teams alive year in year out. I think he's just one of those guys that I have a hard time saying anything bad about ever.
And what one thing that I want to say before we tie a bow on that is, if just like you said, everything surrounding that team, surrounding everything going forward on this with this team all year. I mean, it's a John Gruden experiment, which I think was ridiculous from the start, but it's one of those things where Gruden, in my opinion, won enough games to keep him there. And then obviously the email scandal and all of that bullshit. And then you fast forward to a couple of their players making bonehead life mistakes and are off the field then. That's obviously, going to hurt the offense. But you're right. And it's going to be interesting to see because that organization hasn't extended Derek Carr yet. So where is and if I'm Carr, I want the fuck out of there. I want out of there in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
And
especially with everything that's going on. And there's going to be teams that are going to want him. I mean, there's teams all around the league that he's but he's better than probably half the quarterbacks in this league. So there's going to be teams that are going to be interested and want him.
Picture him in Denver.
Just watch the team today. That just won a few minutes ago. And man, I just imagine if they had Derek Carr on that offense instead of fucking Jimmy Garoppolo. That's who I'm talking about. If anybody can't figure it out,
right?
Just think of how much different
of a difference it could be. Or you know what? I'll talk about my Dallas Cowboys too. I'd fucking take him over Dak Prescott right now.
Yes,
So,
I can't argue that one. I can't argue that either. And big shout out to Coach Bisaccia, taking over for Gruden. And it's going to be if I'm Oakland, he's my coach going forward. That dude turned. I mean, he basically made a turd sandwich into something that was actually like a hamburger. They
what if they're able to pull Jim Harbaugh?
Yeah, and he's far exceeded what anyone ever thought that he would do or could do. And not only did the product on the field reflect that, but it seems to me that just with all the PR and everything around, and the players love him. So, dude's been in football for decades, and this was his first chance to actually get head coach, and I think he did an awesome job. And I want to say there's 7 or 8 openings right now, so even if it's not with the Raiders, I have a very good feeling he's going to get his chance with the team here very soon. And if he doesn't, I'd be shocked. I would be shocked.
I agree. I think he's done more than enough to deserve, obviously, to be in that room and being interviewed and have every opportunity to get that job. But something tells me with the Raiders is they're going to go all out for Jim Harbaugh. I mean, the conversations have been out there. That Jim's interested in going back to the NFL. And that's kind of the destination that everybody's thinking that he's going to end up is with the Raiders. I mean, if there's any opportunity at all to get him, I think that they have to go all out and go for Harbaugh.
And I mean, too, that if they've obviously opened, they being the Raiders, they've opened their pocketbook to Gruden and made him the highest paid NFL coach. So to me, it's, and I have a very good feeling, and I know it's not going to come down to money, but when you're talking about getting someone like Coach Harbaugh or even some of the other college coaches that are making almost $10 million a year, you're going to have to not overpay, but pay more than what they're making. Otherwise, why leave? Why leave? And so that's definitely, like I said, something moving forward that's going to be very interesting to see. But let's jump over to the stats here. Let's talk about this New England game, 2Ks. Mac Jones goes 24 38, 232, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Like I mentioned, Josh Allen has a quarterback rating of 98.5 and went 21 to 25, 308, 5 touchdown passes. Damian Harris leads the way for the rushing side on New England, 9 carries, 30 yards. Devin Singletary, 16 carries, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Josh Allen has 6 carries for 66 yards. Kendrick Bourne led the Pats in receiving, 7 catches, 77 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Dawson Nix, 5 catches, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. This is one of the things that I talked about last week when it was either last week or the week before. This team, and the Buffalo Bills is who I'm referring to here. We all know that Josh Allen can and will put up big numbers. I mean, he had 4 incompletions and 5 touchdown passes, 300 and over 300 yards. This team is a different team when Josh Allen is not the leading rusher. And for Singletary to approach 100-yard games here towards the end of the season becomes very, very important because, even on this show, 2Ks, you and I have talked about at great lengths that this team needs a running game to help complement that. And even though Josh Allen is big, he's a tank, he's a beast. Do you really want your quarterback that's built like that to be your team's leading rusher? I mean, if that's what it comes down to and that's what has to happen, sure. But when you have guys in the backfield that are capable, and we've seen Singletary be more than capable of toting the rock the entire game, to me that takes this team to a whole other level, to where, especially, I mean, there was rumors flying that that for that game last night, 2Ks, you could get a ticket for $35 because it was like -5 degrees outside, and I would much prefer to watch, even if I was in Bills Mafia, I would much rather sit at home and watch that game instead of freezing my ass off. But I'm a fair weather fan, dude, and I was watching the pregame leading up to that early yesterday morning. There were dudes out there at 9:30 in the morning in Bills Mafia, tailgating it up already, 12 hours prior to the game. And it had to be cold then. Only got colder. So this game was a surprise to me just because they've played twice already. And obviously the first one, you can take it or leave it. Mac Jones throws 3 times, has 2 completions, I think. Yeah. What's that?
I don't even think he fucking completed a pass in that first game, did he? You're talking about the game where it was like, oh yeah, he did. He had a couple completions. He only had like 18 and 19 total yards. Yards, I think.
Yeah, and well, I want to say going into halftime, he didn't even attempt to pass. But yeah, he which, then that obviously, which when you are a coach, you have to play to the conditions, which I get. But it's been windy before in other places. But I mean, hey, hats off to Bill Belichick. They won the game. They won the game. That's the most important part. And then the game goes the next time they meet in Foxborough. Bills win, so they split the series. So to see it this lopsided is, I had my money on the Bills yesterday. So to see them win wasn't the shocking part. It was just the vastness or just how bad they beat them, because you never see a Bill Belichick team get blown out, and that's exactly what happened. They got blown the fuck out.
Yeah, this is a Bills team that it seems like everything's coming together at the right time. Like they're just playing almost like they're hitting their peak at the perfect time going into the playoffs. Because you look back at that first Patriots game, obviously the weather was a huge factor in that. But the Bills weren't playing good football. I mean, they were coming off of, at that time, that was in the middle of the season. They'd been beat by Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer was still there, and they got beat in that game. And then I think they got drugged by the Colts right after that. Mm-hmm. And then got beat by the Patriots. And then come the next week, and ended up losing to Tom Brady and the Bucs in an overtime game. And then from that point on, the Bills have been the best team in football from that point on. Yeah, I'm saying that over Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Green Bay's won a lot of close games down the stretch. They've been the most consistent team all year long. But this Bills team, what they've done in the last 5 weeks, and then where they're just wiping teams out. Green Bay hasn't been wiping teams out.
No, and that's one of the things on the Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays with Pat McAfee. That's one of the things that they talked about is, okay, you're winning, Aaron, but can we shut this down? I mean, can we, can you step on the proverbial throat, because these are getting a little too close, and they're teams that shouldn't even be on the same field as Green Bay. So, and speaking of which, I was telling everyone last week that we had boots on the ground in Detroit watching the Lions-Packers game. So before I forget, tell us your thoughts. I mean, obviously, you're being a Cowboys fan. You're just there for the ambiance and to watch. And I'm pretty sure you got to see a little bit more Aaron Rodgers probably than a lot of us thought. So, yeah. Before we switch over to the games today, give us a recap. What were your thoughts? What was awesome about it? What?
Well, I ended up catching COVID while I was so that wasn't the best start to it, which I ended up finding out on Wednesday. And Tuesday I started not feeling good at all, and then Wednesday I tested positive. The only time that I was ever really around a lot of people, obviously Sunday Ford Field, so that's where I'm kind of taking it. But I ended up catching it was on that day.
Right.
But with Green Bay, as far as the Green Bay, it was a meaningless game. They already had the 1-2 box. I thought definitely saw a little bit more of Rodgers and Devontae than what I kind of had thought going into the game. But I mean that's got to be really difficult to plan for a game when you know going into that game that you're not going to be playing the whole game, regardless of what the score is or what the situation is. Like you're only going to play this amount of snaps and then you're done. So it's got to be hard to do that. Rodgers was still Rodgers though. He had I think 3 or 4 drives, 2 of them led to touchdowns. To me, the questionable thing with Green Bay in that game was just the defense. But again, you had a lot of starters that were only playing for a half of that game. So it's hard to get a true gauge on what we were watching there. I will say this: I do think that it's a different atmosphere. Speaking about Detroit, with Dan Campbell era, I just think that that's a different team, and the way that these guys, the way that Detroit had battled this entire season, and played a lot of games down to the wire. Something tells me that Dan Campbell's kind of on the right track with turning that franchise around. I'm not saying that they're, get ready to see these guys in the playoffs next year, because this team has a long ways to go. But he's changed that identity of Detroit not being the fucking joke that they've been for so many years. Those guys play hard, and there's some pretty promising things to look at, and obviously they're going to have good draft picks here in the future, and they have a lot of cap space to do stuff with. If they can land some of the right free agents and do well in the draft, I have to admit I'm really rooting for Motor City Dan Campbell.
MCDC. No, I totally agree with you, and for what he did in a short amount of time with the young team that he has, you're right. I mean, it seems like everyone over there has bought into what MCDC is selling. That program is moving in the right direction. There's sunnier days coming in Ford Field, even though it is a dome, but it's just going to take time. It's just going to take time, and let's hopefully the brass over there at the Lions decides to keep him around and let him see what he can do, because yes, they won 3 games. One of which, like the game you were at, was most Packers fans really didn't give a shit about that game because they had locked everything up. The only thing that they were caring about was getting the Packers home without injury.
Yeah, exactly. That was the key. I mean, for Green Bay, and they come out of it healthy. They were able to get some snaps for Bakhtiari, who it was going to be huge getting him back. One of the best left tackles in the game. Obviously, Rodgers' safety blanket there, and protecting his blind side. And they were able to get 20-some snaps for him. So I thought that was a huge deal. He looked good. No setbacks there.
You also got a center back too.
As long as Rodgers but as long as Rodgers is healthy afterwards, Devontae's healthy. That's really all that matters going into next week. Now, what I will say about what happened today is, if I'm Green Bay, I would have rather seen Dallas on the other side talking about next week than who they're about to play with San Francisco.
Oh yeah,
just because of how physical San Francisco is and how they're going to just try to run the ball, and I think that's the way that you can beat Green Bay. If you want to try to get in a shootout with Aaron Rodgers, good fucking luck. Because there ain't very many guys that can do it. I know for a fact Dak Prescott can't do it.
No.
And there maybe Patrick Mahomes, maybe Josh Allen. That's about it. So, but you can run the football on them, and if you can control the clock and you can control the ball, and which I think San Francisco is will be able to have success running the football. They're going to be able to keep it, a low scoring game, control the clock, and they're going to have an opportunity in the fourth quarter to win that game. If I'm Green Bay, if I'm Matt LaFleur, I would rather see Mike McCarthy and Dallas coming in than who they're about to face next week with San Francisco. And they have Kyle Shanahan, two head coaches that worked a long time together that obviously know a lot about each other.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a really good matchup.
No, I 100% agree, and take into account too that this Niners team is a wagon. They are hot. We talked about Buffalo being on the right track at the right time, and we can say the exact same thing about this 49ers team. And they're anytime you can run the ball, control the clock, keep the other guy on the sideline, your chances of winning go up, because if the other offense is on the sideline, it's hard to score points. And we've all talked about Jimmy G not being the greatest quarterback in the world, but he doesn't turn the ball over a lot either. That whole offense doesn't turn the ball over a lot. So yeah, Dallas did get him a couple times, but that's what that Dallas defense does. They're gonna turn you over at least once a game, it seems like. And with that crew over there, it just seems like it's something that's bound to happen. But speaking of that, 2Ks, let's jump over to today's games. All right, where are we at here? All right, Eagles Bucks. Excuse me. I don't think this one, the outcome of this was a big shocker to anybody. There were some rumblings in the on the internets about this Philadelphia team, if they run the ball, can beat Tom Brady, which might be the case, but I wasn't buying into any of that. The only thing that shocked me about this game is how long Tom actually played. I figured come out of the locker room one series and then he'd be done, but he finishes the game 2Ks. Jalen goes 23 of 43, 258 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Brady has a Brady game. I mean, he goes 29 of 37, 271, 2 touchdown passes, no picks. For this vaunted running team, which they were down 17-0 going into half, and definitely not. I mean, they're losing, yes, but it's 2-score game. It's 2-score game at that point, so it's not like you're buried. But 2Ks, they only ran the ball 17 times. Jalen Hurts had 8 carries for 39 yards. Miles Sanders had 7 carries for 16 yards, which is long. His long run, 2Ks, was 14 yards. So in 6 other carries, he gained 2 yards. Keyshawn Vaughn, 17 carries, 53 yards. Giovanni Bernard, out of nowhere, 13 carries, 44 yards. And Mike Evans has a huge game, 9 catches, 117 yards, and a tud. Gronk gets in the end zone. Scotty fucking Miller, if he would have had a half more yard receiving, probably would have made I think it was 61,000 people, 2Ks, jumped on Pat McAfee's same game parlay. Hit I want to say it was a 4-leg parlay, and the only one that didn't hit was Scotty Miller, over 8.5 yards receiving. Dude gets 3 targets. No, excuse me. He's only targeted once. He had one target, 1 catch for 8 yards. And I was riding alongside Mr. McAfee on that one, and I was holding my breath for pretty much the whole second half, because it seemed like everything else, all the other boxes were checked. Evans gets in the end zone. Gronk gets in the end zone. The alternate spread of 2.5 was blown out of the water. So we were just waiting for Mr. Scotty Miller to get one more reception, which never happened. But other than that, 2Ks, this game went pretty much about what I thought it was going to. I never really put too much thought into this, because in my mind there's no way that Jalen Hurts was beating Tom Brady. What do you think?
No, I took the bet when the line was still like by 9.5. I think is what I took it at.
Yeah.
And never really batted an eye at it. I thought it was pretty easy for me. nothing against Jalen Hurts, nothing against the Eagles team. I think that they did get a lot better, and down the stretch they were playing some pretty good football that got them into the playoffs. But it's Tom Brady. Now the only question that I do have with Tampa Bay is, are they going to have enough fucking guys to finish the season? Because it just seems like guys keep on dropping, and today, with the possibility of losing Tristan Wirfs, who's been, probably their best offensive lineman. That's got to be pretty scary. And then obviously with whatever the fuck happened with Antonio Brown, they're in the final week of the season. Godwin with the knee injury, Leonard Fournette not being out there. Just so many of those big names that are now gone on the team. It seems like all the time people want to try to, want to throw that doubt word out there with Tom Brady and say, well, here's no way he can do it. There's no way he can do it. When you start talking that way, then the guy he just fucking wins. Now, I don't think that this team can compete with, listen to me, I'm trying to talk him out of it right now. But I don't think that this team can compete with, some of these other teams that are in the NFC. But especially with the injuries, I mean, if they were all healthy and everybody was still, was still there, was still present, talking about Antonio Brown, then I do think that this team could compete with the Packers or some of the other teams in the NFC. But no, I didn't. This team was no shocker at all. Tampa scored so fast at the beginning of the game, kind of took Philly out of their plan of being able to run the football. The defense showed up in the second quarter, was able to kind of keep them in it, and then we saw after halftime, Philly could go back to running the football, only being down 17-0 at halftime. But then Tampa comes out, scores 2 touchdowns right off the bat in the third quarter, takes them out of that. If Philly can't run the football, then they're just a total different team. So I think kudos to Tampa. They did what they needed to do. They controlled the pace of the game and basically took the run game away from Philly by jumping out to the big leads.
And I think too the not only the 2 picks by Jalen, but the muff punt and all the turnovers didn't help either. I mean, the blueprint is out there on how to beat Tom Brady, right? You have to get to him. You got to move his feet. You got to get him uncomfortable, and then you have to play a perfect game. Mm-hmm. And for both of those things to happen, doesn't happen that often, which is why Tom is who he is. He's the GOAT. And so this, in my opinion, was probably the easiest game to pick, even though it did have it's not the easiest. I'm pretty sure this Pittsburgh Kansas City was probably a little easier in my mind, but no, this, if you would have told me the spread was 21, I probably would have taken it, just because it's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady, and as well as I do, for years I've been a Tom Brady hater. I've been on that bandwagon. I'm the one that pretty much has doubted him more than most anybody, and not in this game. Not in this game at all. But you did hit the nail on the head when it does come to moving forward. It seems like the injury bug has bitten the skill positions, like you mentioned. Now it's starting to get to the offensive line. And just like I said, one of the main contributors to beating TB12 is to move his feet while he's in the pocket, get him hurried, get him flustered, which goes to say with any quarterback. We're not just picking on Brady here, but that's part of the equation to be successful against Tom Brady. So once those offensive linemen start going down, once they start getting dinged up, that's when you got to take a step back and be like, ooh, okay. I mean, this could get a little choppy. It could get a little choppy. So let's jump over to the Cowboys game, 2Ks. I know you really probably don't want to revisit this, but we gotta. There it is. Hit the box score. Let me share my screen. All right. Final score 23-17. This was one of the weirdest games I've ever seen, 2Ks. This way it came down, just this way it ended. I mean, it didn't seem like it was going to end. And then when it did, it ended sooner than I think even Dak even thought it was going to. But Jimmy G goes 16 of 25, 172 yards and a pick. Dak Prescott 23 of 43, 254, a touchdown and a pick. Elijah Mitchell. I mean, we've already talked about it. How we talked about the Eagles being a very good running team. This San Francisco team, since Shanahan has been there, it seems like they can get more 100-yard rushers than any other team. It seems like they have a stable of running backs. It certain times seems endless. I mean, take the last couple of years, or last year before. It seems like this team, no matter what, can always find running backs.
And now they just, it's like it's so easy for them to get a running back 100 yards. Now they're just trying to get a wide receiver 100 yards too.
Yeah. Elijah Mitchell, 27 carries, 96 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Debo, probably what you're alluding to, 10 carries, 72 yards, and a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And Zeke, 12 carries, 31 yards. Both Dak and Pollard had 4 carries each. Dak did have the rushing touchdown. Brandon Ayuk, 5 catches, 66 yards. Debo has only has 3 catches for 38 yards. Kittle, 1 catch for 18 yards. That's kind of what I took away from this game. 2Ks is, if this team is going to be a team, and if this team is going to be going down the stretch and making a run, Debo and Kittle have to be more of a factor when it comes to the passing game, especially. I know with Debo's new role where they kind of slide him in the backfield, that's had a lot of success. But is that a good thing that's taken off, or is it taking yet another weapon from the outside? Because Ayuk's is a good receiver. Kittle is one of the best tight ends in the league. Other than that, I mean, there really isn't, that guy when it comes to it. I mean, we talked about the Packers and in their weapons. It seems like the teams that, and especially a Cincinnati team, but if both of them were to make it that far where they could play, but taking Debo from his natural position, obviously, and being that dynamic receiver, do you think it's good that they're kind of expanding his role? Or it doesn't seem like they're expanding it. It just seems like they're kind of diversifying it. I think might be a good word to describe it. But having him in the backfield, is that taking away from maybe some of the potency of this offense?
No, I don't think so. When you have a player as talented as Debo, you have to find ways to get him the ball. And a quarterback as shitty as Jimmy Garoppolo, who can't get the ball to the players, the way that a lot of the quarterbacks in this league are capable of. Mm-hmm. Then you have to just go to the strategy of, I'm just going to turn around and hand him the motherfucking ball.
Right.
Because, there was times today. Look, I watched quite a bit of San Francisco football. I really like Kyle Shanahan. I just like his coaching style. I would take him as the head coach of my team any day of the week. So I watch a lot of San Francisco play. But Garoppolo he misses guys all the time, and I feel like people keep on trying to make excuses for this guy, like he still is the answer, and I don't fucking see it. I don't. He's got loads and loads of talent around him. In my opinion, he has the best head coach in the NFL today on the sideline for him, but this guy still tries to figure out ways to fuck things up.
Yeah.
And next week against Aaron Rodgers, they're gonna have. I can't wait to watch that football game, because I think you have 2 of the best coaches in the NFL in LaFleur and Shanahan matching up. 2 of the best offensive minds matching up against each other. But then when it comes down to Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Garoppolo going against each other, I just don't see any way that Green Bay loses this game with Rodgers on there, because Rodgers doesn't fuck up and Garoppolo fucks up all the time.
Yeah.
So the only way that Green Bay loses is if they just get smashed as far as in the run game. which is a possibility. It is a possibility, but you have to think that defense is going to be ready for that rushing attack because you can kind of and you can kind of throw guys in the box on San Francisco and make them have to beat you through the air. And right now,
Yeah.
I don't know if this team can beat you in the air.
Yeah, and if you're, you could try to do that with Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers is going to dice you up all day.
Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is probably the most talented quarterback that's ever played football in the NFL, period. As far as what the guy can do, throwing the ball from all angles. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's just so fucking efficient. Like, I don't think I truly think Brady is the GOAT. Brady's all the Super Bowls are the reason why he is the GOAT. The most talented player that I've ever watched in my entire life play quarterback in the NFL, hands down, has been.
Oh yeah, and it just seems like the dude keeps getting better. Exactly.
Better now, right?
Exactly. One thing that.
But how much of that credit? I mean, sorry to cut you off again, but how much of that credit do you give to Matt LaFleur?
A lot of it.
I think so too. I truly think so too. Rodgers was, look, he was the best quarterback in the league there for years with some of the numbers that he was throwing out. If he wasn't the best, maybe Brady was the best, but he was right there. I mean, it was kind of there for so many years. It was Brady, Manning, Rodgers, and those three were the best in the league. But then all of a sudden, Rodgers kind of hit this, and I don't know with Mike McCarthy, where they couldn't even get to the playoffs, and he wasn't playing very good football. And I think a lot of that blame goes to McCarthy, honestly.
Oh yeah.
But ever since before shows up in Green Bay, it's like a resurgence for Rodgers and his career. And so many people want to say, well, all this credit has to go to Rodgers. All this credit has to go to Rodgers. There's a lot of fucking credit that needs to go to LaFleur, in my opinion.
Oh.
He does benefit. Reap the benefit of having Rodgers as a quarterback in his first head coaching stint. But it goes both ways. I mean, Rodgers his career has kind of come. It's been a resurgence for his career, with the way that LaFleur is able to scheme his offense and scheme guys open and his play calling and the staff that he's hired around. It's something special there in Green Bay, for sure.
Oh yeah, and it seems like it's a situation where it's a perfect marriage. Like each one of them could succeed on their own, but the success comes quicker and a lot easier when they're together. So yes, one hand does wash the other in this case, I believe, but I think it's taken to a whole other level because of the and 2Ks. Remember when LaFleur was hired, everyone's like, well, how is this new up and coming head coach going to mesh with a future first ballot Hall of Famer, possibly a quarterback on the Mount Rushmore, how are they going to vibe? And then we saw last year in the playoffs where instead of going for it, they kick it, and the whole drama there, which leads into the offseason. And I think if the whole Antonio Brown thing doesn't happen, we're because of the star in the play of Green Bay, a lot of things that happen leading up to that have kind of been pushed aside just because of the success that they've bred there. So yeah, I know I 100% agree. And if LaFleur does not win the Coach of the Year, it's a crying shame and a travesty because, I mean,
it's tough. It's tough to argue with those because it's tough to argue with Vrabel.
Yeah,
it's tough to argue that Vrabel doesn't deserve it with all the injuries that Tennessee's had, and they have a bye. Green Bay. That's the thing. Both teams that are the one seed for Green Bay in the NFC and the Titans in the AFC. Both of those teams had to overcome so much adversity this year with injuries.
Exactly.
I think the Titans just a little bit more on as far as key players go. They've had to deal with a little bit more, but man, it's hard to say that because you talk about Bakhtiari, who's probably the best left tackle in the game, who's been gone for Aaron Rodgers all season long. They've had to piece that offensive line pretty much together, The center being out there too, and they've still found ways to win. I mean, and both teams kind of started the season off kind of shaky. I mean, Green Bay after week 1 with the Saints, everybody was in full panic mode. Same thing can be said for the Titans. They kind of started off slow this year too. So it's really hard to say where they can go. I think Vrabel, people will kind of lean towards Vrabel because so many people have it stuck in their head that the only reason that there's so much success in Vrabel is because of Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And look, it's hard to argue that he is. It's Aaron Rodgers that we're talking about, but look, Aaron Rodgers wasn't doing shit until LaFleur ends up there, and I think it's been a resurgence for Rodgers having LaFleur there because I think LaFleur challenges Rodgers because I think the football IQ is very, very sharp between the both of them. Obviously, we already knew that with Rodgers,
right?
But LaFleur is fucking sharp. You can't say that about Mike McCarthy all that much.
No.
I mean, I can go on for days about what happened in the Dallas game this year, what happened with Dallas this entire season, as far as clock management goes. There's not a whole lot of brains going on there with fucking Mike McCarthy.
No, and I mean, I hate to judge a book by its cover, but if you're just going off that, the dude looks like a moron. I mean, he really does. He looks like a big chucklehead.
I hated the hire. We talked about it a couple of years ago when Dallas made this hire. I never liked it. He's just stale. He's a stale head coach, and with what you see today, there's two things that I truly believe that you need in this league to win Super Bowls. You need a damn good quarterback, and you need a damn good coach. And that's something that Dallas doesn't have either one. Dallas has a mediocre quarterback in Dak Prescott, and they have a stale fucking head coach in Mike McCarthy, who I hope is gone after tonight and after today's fucking debacle of a game where they have well over 100 yards in penalties and then just the stupidity and clock management that they've been dealing with all season long. And
right.
they had a clock management blunder before halftime and ended up, had an opportunity where they should have at least got a field goal, and they ended up with nothing. And it's just it's been that the whole season, and you got to have you have to have a good head coach, and with some of and I truly believe that Dallas' future head coach is their offensive coordinator now, with Kellen Moore, and I think that they've hit a roadblock where if they don't hire Kellen Moore as their head coach, he's going to take an interview somewhere else because of all the coaching vacancies, and he's going to be gone. They're going to lose.
Yep, and that's what they've been breeding him for. That's the reason he has his job is to, and everyone kind of thought it was going to be he's going to be the Jason Garrett successor, and obviously they go Mike McCarthy instead. So I tell you what, 2Ks, Matt Nagy's walking a free man. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you could hire him really easy.
Well, I mean, if I had my choice on who I would hire, Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur would be ones I'd be trying to fucking trying to go get. But those are two guys that I think it's safe to say aren't leaving their franchises anytime soon.
No, I think both of them are pretty set. But
I mean that coaching that Mike Shanahan coaching tree though, like Jesus. Why hasn't there been a documentary done on TV about that? Because they're taking over the NFL.
Yeah,
I mean that tree, those coaches that have all branched off of that are taking over the entire NFL right now.
Yeah, and they're the complete opposite of the Bill Belichick tree. Bill Belichick coaches that have gone on to coach absolutely suck ass, and we're seeing the complete opposite of that. So, no, it's the coaching vacancies and everything else. We'll dive into that. I mean, we'll dissect every hire, every all of that. But it will be interesting to see with an early exit, especially the way the Cowboys came out. They were world beaters. Yes, they lost to Tampa the very first game, but after that, the team was rolling. And then it seemed like once Dak got hurt, they were never really the same again. That defense was ball hawking. The defense was way better than in years past. But the offense, the part of the team that, you've kind of hung your hat on for many, many years, it was missing. There's something that's missing. And then it's not talent, because they have as talented of skill position players as any team, have one of the best offensive lines. Was it Zeke was banged up, Tony Pollard was banged up, Zach Martin was banged up for a little bit, and like I said, Dak was even banged up. So was it just was it the?
I think so too. And look, I've knocked Dak big time so far today, but I think that there is an injury there. Maybe the significance of that injury is more than we've been led on to know.
It has
this
to.
year. Maybe some stuff is going to come out here the next week or so about it. But, that's what I would like to believe. I would like to believe that this isn't the best that we're going to see out of the guy that we just fucking paid
A lot of money.
paid a shit ton of money to be the quarterback of the future. I hope that this isn't the peak. I want to believe that it's not, but man, you look back a couple years ago when they paid all that fucking money to Zeke, and it's been downhill from there. They paid all the money to Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's been very up and down. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot of question marks there with what's going on in Dallas, but I think that the obvious one is by the time we wake up in the morning, I would hope that Mike McCarthy will join the list of fired head coaches in the league, because that guy is not the fucking answer.
No, and you know what? I do have a feeling that with the you before we went live, you mentioned Dan Quinn, you mentioned a handful of folks that are already there on staff in Dallas, and it would make sense just to move one of those guys up and take the spot, because hell, it's kind of hard to do worse than what McCarthy is doing currently.
I would rather have both of them. I think that Kellen Moore's shot. I think that Kellen Moore has earned his opportunity to do it. And like I said, if you don't hire him as a coach, somebody else is going to snag him.
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
I think it's kind of a word around the entire league that this guy deserves his opportunity. Dan Quinn, look, he's already proven that he's one of the best defensive coaches in the league. He's done it, by turning around this Dallas defense and the season that they had after the season that they had last year. I think Dan Quinn deserves that opportunity to at least being on some of these interviews, whether he walks out of this with a head coaching job. That we'll wait and see there. I personally, I hope he stays in Dallas, but we'll see. He's definitely earned the opportunity. But there's also a lot of really, really good names, and we're starting to kind of see where a lot more franchises are wanting to hire these offensive minds more than the defensive minds.
Right. Well, 2Ks. Let's pick these last two games, and the Pittsburgh Kansas City game is on right now, and Pittsburgh is actually leading 7-0. We had a strip sack. TJ Watt picked up the fumble, went in the end zone, and currently Mahomes and the crew are rolling. So it is about 7 minutes left to go before halftime. Does Pittsburgh being ahead right now and Kansas City being scoreless kind of change your mind about Kansas City winning this game?
No, I still think Kansas City will win this football game. But look, I think it was Kansas City was picked to win this by 10.5 or 11.5. Maybe even 12.5. It was up there.
Well, if you're,
I know that I took Pittsburgh. I took Pittsburgh on this. This one was not. I didn't take Pittsburgh to win. I didn't take money line on it, but I took Pittsburgh with the point.
Well, then Kansas City is one of the worst teams ever to Kansas City is one of the worst teams to play against the spread. So, and especially when you have a big number like that, given the emotion of Steeler Nation, of this team, they get Juju back, which I think is a good thing. But then again, Mahomes has been up and down so much this year that I I stayed away from this game. I did take some anytime touchdown scores, but as far as the points go, I stayed away. But oh, there it is. They're going to tie it up. So I think Kansas City will win this game. But yeah, I'm right with you. They do not cover. They do not cover. What are your thoughts on the Cardinals Rams?
And I've thought a lot about this game. This to me was the hardest game to pick on, money wise. I mean, as far as betting on, like I said earlier. Well, I think I said it before we even went live. But I was talking about going San Francisco Cowboys game. I was personally thinking I should just go San Francisco, but my stupid fucking heart told me to go Cowboys. So I went with the Cowboys, and they screwed me on that.
You bet with your pocketbook, not your heart.
Yeah, but my brain was telling me San Francisco was going to because I just didn't have a whole lot of faith in the Cowboys. But man, this Rams and Cardinals team, betting on this, it seems like every day this week I was thinking a different team. I got to go with the Rams here, just because I like Sean McVay more than I like Cliff Kingsbury. But the X factor for me is Kyler Murray. Is Kingsbury going to call a game where Kyler Murray runs the ball, 8-10 times and can totally change the game with his feet, or are they going to call a game like they did there for 4 or 5 weeks straight, where I think Murray was dealing with an injury? Or that's the only thing I can think of is where they were trying to keep him in the pocket, where he's not a pocket quarterback. He's not fucking big enough to see over his offensive line,
right?
Let alone throw over him. But when this guy gets out of the pocket, what he can do with his feet and to be able to extend plays, it's incredible. Mm-hmm. So if he's healthy and he's a full go, and this one scares me a little bit. And then as much as I like Sean McVay and I like this Rams team, and obviously Matthew Stafford hasn't played very good football.
Not down the stretch, no. No, he hasn't.
Last month he has not played very good football. So, what version of him are we going to get? I mean, he doesn't even really have, any season experience at all. So, you have two quarterbacks that really don't have a whole lot of experience when it comes to this. So then they kind of go and lean on the coaching, and I think Sean McVay is a way better coach than Cliff Kingsbury. So, I'm going with the Rams.
Well, just so folks know, the line is 3.5. The Rams are giving 3.5, and I'm going the other way on this one. I'm going Cardinals. Give me the points, and for whatever reason, the Cardinals are 8-1 away, and they are playing this in SoFi, which means they are away. So give me that record. Give me the points. I'm taking the Cardinals. But you nailed everything 100%. Stafford, being a Lion for that many years, hasn't made the playoffs that often. He's never won in the playoffs. That Robert Woods injury, it seems like the offense, when Stafford is actually throwing the ball to the correct players, it hits on all cylinders. They went all in. OBJ, Von Miller. Just the names on that defense, there's no one that should be able to score on this team, or against this team. But on the other side, the Cardinals are getting Watt back, and everyone that is saying at practice he's looking phenomenal. Add him to an already good defense. I mean, that defense was humming before he went down. So, getting JJ Watt on fresh legs this time of year, add him to the mix. I think it's and then you're right when it comes to Kyler. It's like like I said, this Cardinals team is the same Cardinals team that lost to the Lions. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be an exciting game for one. I think it's going to be probably the closest game that we're going to see in this round of the playoffs, because they're two very, very evenly matched teams. They both have great defenses. They both have good quarterback play. They both have studs across the board as far as the skill positions go. But it's if I'm putting money, I'm going to trust Kyler more than I am Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
And between that and the away record of the Cardinals is, yep, give me the Cards and the points. Give me the Cards and the points.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2K
it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Oh yeah, and you know what, brother? It's playoff football. This is the best of the best. I mean,
and these games are only going to get tougher as we go.
Yeah. There's really no reason why we saw a complete blowout in when it comes to this time of year, and you're gonna see a lot of Colts fans, which if you do follow Pat on Twitter, there's a lot of people that are destroying him. Just because his Colts lost to the Jags, so they that's what actually opened up the route for Pittsburgh to get in here. So yeah, it's like, all right, well, do you think Indy would have had a better showing against Buffalo than New England did? I don't know, but is it better? I would take Josh Allen over Carson Wentz any day of the week. Any day of the week. So would it have made a difference? I really don't think so. I don't think so. But this is playoff football. There shouldn't be any blowouts. All these games should be. And what was shocking is looking at the initial, once the odds were released, there's a lot of double-digit odds, and I'm like, holy shit, this shouldn't happen. This should not happen. So we have seen some and don't get me wrong, not all the games have been blowouts. There have been a lot of close games, but I think as far as picking the games go, everything's kind of went to chalk, I guess. I mean, at least there hasn't been any big surprises as far as the actual winners and losers. Some of the results were a little surprising, but I think all in all, we've had a great weekend of football, and we still get one more day, 2Ks. We get one more day. Well, with that being said, brother, do you have anything else that we need to wrap up? Anything else that's on your mind?
No, that's it, man. I mean, trust me, I could go on for a long time talking that shit about Mike McCarthy and Dallas Cowboys, but I better just call it tonight.
Well, all right, brother. Give my bestest wishes to everyone over there, and hopefully you guys get that ugly thing out your house so everything can be back to normal. I know.
As of yesterday, I'm completely clear. I'm out of the COVID quarantine. So
out of the COVID cave.
I went my 5 days, and that's what they're saying. 5 days now. Vaccinated from 5 days from your first symptoms, and so I'm set to go back to work tomorrow.
I'm sure you're ready to get the fuck out of the house.
Yeah.
Well, all right, brother. It was good talking with you. I'm sure we'll catch up throughout the week. But for everyone else, go have an amazing week. Go have an amazing week. This is the best of the best football time. And for those of you that are waiting for our college basketball analysis, get the fuck ready, because we're going to have that loaded up here pretty soon too, because in my opinion, 2Ks, when it comes to college basketball, you have to wait a few weeks. We have to see who these teams are before we start talking about them. Because I mean, probably the most overrated thing in all of sports is the preseason and NCAA basketball polls. Who we've seen a lot of teams have that number one spot, but one of the flip sides is, I'm pretty sure there's, at least in the top tier there, no one is undefeated anymore. No one is undefeated. Nope. So if everything lines up the way it should, 2Ks, I think we're going to have a very exciting March Madness. What do you think?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, brother. Well, we'll get the listeners out on this, and as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.